I'm Brittany. I'm with Community Rec Magazine. Today, Hailee Bland Walsh, she is the co-founder of Fit Truk and owner-founder of City Gym. She is doing our presentation today on why balance is BS. And if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to send those over. We'll make sure we get those answered for you. And also, as a heads up, we are recording the presentation on demand, so we will make sure that you have access to this and you're able to revisit or share as needed. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, send those through, or contact Hailee, and she'll let you know how to get in touch with her shortly. So in the meantime, I will go ahead and hand it on over to our host, Hailee.
Thank you, Brittany. So will you be reading questions as they come in? Because of the way my screen is set up right now, I'm not able to see the chat function, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I will fill those as they come in, and I'll let you know.
Perfect. And folks, feel free to chime in or, share something, an aha as we're going along. I'm used to teaching and speaking in front of big groups of people. So virtual is always kind of a struggle for me because I miss that crowd interaction. So feel free to chime in. As Brittany said, my name is Hailee Bland Walsh. I am the owner and founder of City Gym in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm the co-founder of Fit Truk, the world's first fully equipped mobile outdoor smart gym. And I've worked in the industry for almost 20 years as a trainer, instructor, gym owner, and now co-founder of Fit Truk. And one of the things that I have found in my working with clients and members, but in my life, actually, most of all, is just what the title of this presentation is today, which is Balance is BS. So, I think it's always very interesting how this concept of balance comes up so often when I'm talking to folks, especially about, big, crazy, busy times. We live in a world obsessed with the belief that life fulfillment and work achievement comes from this illusion of balance, right? So I like to immediately start to have a conversation about a scale. So when we think about balance, we think about both sides being equal. And we are told over and over and over again that the only way to be a successful person or be a successful career person or spouse or parent is by ensuring that everything in our life is in total balance. So I am an entrepreneur. I own 2 businesses. And I could say I can't think of one single time when my life has been in balance in the way that we talk about it, meaning that all things are happening equally over the span of my life. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you can think of times, most times in your life where, something was taking the precedent in your life and the other things just weren't getting the same time and attention. The problem with this idea that balance is the goal is that when we don't achieve balance, we get into this sort of shame, guilt, frustration cycle where we start to prioritize our time in a way that might not be working us ultimately towards our goals. So I'll give you an example. Next month, we're headed out to Carlsbad with Peak Media to do the Community Rec event, which we're so excited about. And my life is very much taken up with that event and all of the details it requires in order for us to attend that event. If you looked at my life right now, you would think, it's not in balance, but I want to offer a reframe. So instead of thinking of the word balance, I want to offer a different perspective. So I like to use the word alignment. So alignment means that all of your time, attention, and energy is spent on the things that are most important to you, right? So in pursuit of your biggest yes, and for me right now, my biggest yes is to sell Fit Truks. So in pursuit of your biggest yes, you have to know what to say no to, right? And to determine that, you have to figure out what your priorities are, right? So that idea of alignment. So instead of balance, I like to think of your life in terms of alignment. So that means you're going to have to figure out what your yeses are. Because if you don't know what your yeses are, then there's no way to determine what your no's are, right? So I actually came up with this tool for myself a few years ago. I was busy running a business. I had started a nonprofit. I was doing a bunch of speaking and writing, and I was feeling really overwhelmed and really stressed and really frustrated. And I did a little check-in with myself, and I thought, I wonder why I'm sitting in my car before meetings feeling so resentful that I'm about to walk into this meeting. And it dawned on me that I was giving my time, attention, and energy to things that weren't in alignment with what my biggest yeses were. So I thought, okay, what is a tool that I can create for myself to help me determine the things to say yes and no to? And so I came up with this tool. It's called the Wheel of Alignment. It's not the best name in the world for the tool. I always say, before I meet Oprah, I'll come up with a better name for the tool. But it's called the Wheel of Alignment because what it does is it helps you focus on what your values are, what your core values are, and then figure out how to focus your goals in alignment with those core values. So I used to spend a ton of time managing friends and friend drama. So they'd call me and we'd spend 2 hours on the phone and I'd be giving them the best life coaching advice I possibly could. And then they'd get off the phone and a week later, we were having the exact same conversation, right? So I began to use this Wheel of Alignment, not just in reflection of my goals, not just in framing my goals, but also in figuring out how I want to spend my time, who I want to spend my time with, how I want to be invested in folks. And actually, COVID, for all of its craziness, especially for those of us in the fitness industry, really became a time for me to get super duper focused on what were the things that were most important to me, who were the people that were most important to me. At the end of the day, if being in the business of being inside and breathing hard and touching things was not going to be a way to move forward in the fitness industry, what were the things that remained for me in my career and remained for me in my life that deserve my most time and attention? So this is my Wheel of Alignment. So the very first thing you do when you're trying to determine how to spend your time and attention is to figure out what your core values are. So core values are your broad concepts that can be applied over and over again across a wide range of circumstances, as opposed to narrow answers to specific questions. So your core values are what you consider most important in your life, right? What you literally value. So whether you're conscious of what your values are or not, you are working from these values every single day. We have parenting values, investing values, work values, health values. So on the outside of the wheel there, you can see those are my 4 values. So that's actually going to be the very first step today. We're going to spend just a teeny bit of time. I want you to just grab a pen and a piece of paper, and I want you to come up with 2 to 4 core values. Now, I know a lot of you are probably like overachievers and you're out there thinking, oh my gosh, I have so many values. The more values you have, the more things that get filtered in. So I want you to just spend a teeny bit of time thinking about what your values are. And if anybody wants to share, feel free to say something in the chat. But for me, my values kind of first and foremost is love, right? And then transformation, inspiration, and nurturing. So those are my values. So on the outside of the wheel are my values. And then just inside of the wheel is how I activate that value. So for me, love is a core value. And how I activate that core value is through relationships. So on the very inside, it says my 5. So give equals receive. So growing up, my Nana used to always say to me, if you can count your 5 closest 5 best friends on one hand, consider yourself really lucky. And I always thought that was such a strange thing to say, because as a kid, I had tons of friends and a big, huge community. But as I've gotten older, I really have begun to understand what she meant by that advice. So again, like I said before, I was managing all of these relationships where I was doing all the giving and I wasn't getting any of the receiving. And so I did a big friend overhaul, a big community overhaul. And basically the litmus test was, if you don't give as much to me as I give to you, then I'm not going to continue to manage that relationship. Now, I want to be really clear, give as much to is an energetic exchange, right? So there are going to be relationships that you're in, potentially if you're a parent, where you are giving more to your kiddos potentially than they're giving to you, but it's an energy exchange, right? So are you getting as much from the relationship as you're putting into the relationship? And so what I found was I got rid of a bunch of askholes. So ASK. So those are those people that ask you for your advice and ask you for your time and you for your attention, but they don't give anything to you in return. And I'll be honest with you, when I did this first sort of overhaul 5 years ago, I thought, you know, all of these people were going to be totally devastated that I wasn't maintaining the relationship. But what I found was those relationships that I was sustaining and maintaining really kind of fell away very, very easily. So the next is transformation. So for me, I am a transformation junkie. I was a Division I and professional athlete, and I got into the fitness industry 20 years ago because I thought, I don't want a real job. I don't want a desk job. But I stayed in fitness and I continue to be passionate about the industry because it offers people an opportunity to change. So I love watching somebody accomplish something in the gym or accomplish a hike or a race, and to watch the way that that opens them up to the other ways that their life could be different, right? So for me, transformation is activated through it says here, heart-centered profession. So I have to do work that is a reflection of of who I am, and transformation being one of those values. The next is inspiration. So I, again, being a fitness person, speaking, writing, trainer, instructor, all of those roles, what the key common thread is inspiration. I love to inspire folks to think a little bit differently, to act a little bit differently, to think outside of the box. And then for me, it's activated through my personal self-expression. And then it's important for me, in order to inspire, to have ways in which I'm inspired. And then my final value is nurturing. So my friends often joke that my brand is aggressively loving. I was put on this earth to nurture. I was put on this earth to hold space for people, create safe space for people. So the way in which I activate that value is through social justice. So that's not just through activism, that includes the way that I run my business. It includes the physical and emotional space that we create both at City Gym and at Fit Truk, in giving folks an opportunity to show up and feel safe and become the biggest, best versions of themselves. So does anybody want to take a stab and give me one of your core values? You could just drop it in the chat there.
Standing by to see if any come through. I do love these though. I'd love to chime in. I love,
please do.
I love your transformation core value. Only do work that is an expression of who you are. I feel like, especially if you're like a creative person, somebody who identifies as like a creative, I think that means a lot.
Yeah, thank you. And it's interesting that you use the word creative, because I work in the fitness industry. I'm a business owner. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a creative, but I am a creative thinker. I do that sort of creative expression is important to me in the ways in which I'm running and building my businesses. So thinking outside of the box in terms of what these values can be, for me, transformation is a non-negotiable. It has to be, the work I do has to be a reflection of myself. And so I don't know if if somebody did end up commenting knowledge. Oh, I love it. Perfect. Okay, so now you know your core values, or you've kind of written down some core values. Now I want you to think through, how do you activate that core value? So if love is your core value, how are you going to activate that core value? And what you can see is this wheel becomes this lens. It becomes a filter in which you're running all things through. Okay. And so it's you have this amazing opportunity to begin to understand how, when you're living your life in the alignment and you're focused on using this tool as a lens to make decisions about what's meant for you. So for example, Brittany, we're talking about, you said, I love that you only do work that's an expression of who you are. So I get asked to do a lot of things, speak and be on committees and, help run organizations. And I have to really, really get quiet, because I think that I have a tendency to believe that if I can do it, I should do it, right? If I have the skill set and somebody needs my help, I should do that, right? You've heard the expression, don't should all over yourself, right? I was spending so much time focused on doing things because I could do them, that I wasn't focused on the things that meant the most to me. And so again, for me, it's the work I do, the businesses that I own and run. And if I'm giving all my time and attention away to things, to organizations, to opportunities that aren't focused on what is most important to me, then my time and attention ends up not being as impactful, right? And so for me, as an athlete, as a trainer, it's always about, how do I get the most from the least amount of effort, right? So how do I get the most impact from sort of the least amount of total energy? So if my energy is a container, what are the ways in which I really want to make an impact in my life and in the world and the people that I love? I want to do that by being as focused as I possibly can. So relationships, I mentioned, transformation, we talked about a little bit. This idea of nurturing, this is an interesting one, because I think because it is it's sort of there's a selflessness quality to it, that you might think, oh, well, nurturing means you nurture everyone, right? And what I have uncovered for myself is that when I was nurturing everyone, and there were many years where I was nurturing everyone, that it left me feeling totally empty and feeling like I didn't have anything to give to those people, to those ideas, those concepts, to those companies that meant the most to me. So I was coming home from doing everything for everybody else out in the world, and I wasn't the very best version of myself with my family. And so I flipped that. And I was like, how do I give my very best to the people who mean the most to me? And then everybody else is going to get a little bit less. So there will always be something that the people I love the most get more than anyone else. And I think that sometimes that gets flipped, right? It gets flipped. We give more to the world than we do to the people who love us most, because they're going to forgive us or they're going to understand. But what I found by creating this tool for myself and getting really focused, and for me, an indicator that I'm working outside of my wheel of alignment is I start feeling really stressed out, or I start feeling really resentful. Like I was talking about before, I'll see a meeting on my calendar and think, oh, I can't believe I have to do that thing. If I'm going to events that I'm feeling, I'm feeling like I'm not my very best self at the event, it means that I'm doing too much out here and I'm not focused inside there. And so, I'll be honest, when I very first started applying this strategy to my life, I assumed my life would get really small. I thought, and that was kind of scary for me. I enjoy a variety of things. I like doing lots of different things. Obviously, I I own 2 businesses, so I wear many, many hats every day. And so I thought for sure that my life would get smaller. But what I have found by applying this strategy, applying this values filter to my life, is that honestly, my life has done nothing but expand. Because I, again, am so focused on where I can make the most impact. And so instead of my life getting smaller, my life has expanded. It has deepened. I know that when we spend time trying to achieve this idea of balance, we get stuck in this idea of feeling guilty that we're not giving equal time and attention to all things. But as someone who's an entrepreneur and a business owner and a former professional athlete, there's not been a single thing that I have accomplished, whether it's a race or a sporting event or opening a business, that I did by giving this equal time and attention to all things in my life, right? It required a balance, the act of alignment. And that meant that some things, if you're going to, if you're going to school to get a degree, that's going to be one of your top priorities. That means some other things are going to get less time and attention. And we are already doing that naturally in our lives, especially if you're a parent. I'm not a parent, but both of my siblings are, and I watch them do this effortlessly in their life, except for what happens is my sister is often saying, oh, there's not enough hours in the day, or, oh, I didn't take the cupcakes to school, or, oh, I didn't spend enough time working in my business, because she she gets stuck in this sort of mindset. We all do get stuck in this mindset of, oh, I've got to do equal thing, equal time and attention for everything. And so instead of moving us towards our biggest yeses, we get strung out and stressed out because we're thinking that all things have to be, we have to give equal time and attention to all things. So I'd love to hear your reflections or comments. If you have any comments about the tool or you have any questions about the tool, I really encourage you to create this for yourself. I, for a very long time, had one on my mirror in my bathroom. I had one next to my computer. And as I was trying to make these decisions about what to and not to do, how to spend my time and attention, I would visibly look at the wheel and be like, okay, does this fall inside of the wheel? And does this really align with what I want to do? Because I really struggled to say no. I felt very guilty saying no. And so it required me to really get focused on what I was trying to achieve in order to say no. I'll be honest, after 5 or 6 years of practicing no, it's far easier. It's definitely a muscle that you can flex and work and get stronger. I have people ask me all the time, how do you say no to something that, is a really great cause, but is just not meant for you? And so an example might be if I get asked to say, volunteer for a nonprofit that is an amazing organization and who I think does really great work. I might say, hey, thank you so much for thinking of me. I feel super honored that you would reach out, that you evaluated that I might be able to help your organization. At the current time, I don't have the bandwidth or the capacity. Sometimes I say, this isn't an area of focus for me right now, but I want to just say how much it means to me that you all are doing this work. And honestly, the relief I feel that you're doing this work so that I don't have to do this work, knowing that good people are doing this work. And I wish you the very best. And in the future, you think there's a way that which I can be helpful, please reach out again, right? That's a very long no. Doesn't have to be that long. My very smart Nana, the one who said the 5 friends thing, she used to also say all the time, no is a complete sentence. No, thanks. Nope. No, thank you. If you have kids, you practice that a lot, right? Just no, because I said no. And so that's been a skill that I've had to learn over time and has taken me some reflection and some practice. And I'll be honest, there have been times when I have said yes to something, knowing that it was a no for me, and inevitably I begin to resent or feel stressed out about or be disengaged with. And so I think to myself in those moments when I'm making decisions, is it better for this thing to get less of my time and attention, kind of do it halfway? Or is it better to just upfront decline the opportunity? So that's been a strategy that I've implemented to be able to say yes to the things that mean the most to me. You know, athletes do it every day. The number of times as a soccer player growing up, the number of times I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't. I have soccer, slumber parties, dances, vacations, other fun things that you do when you're growing up and even in college, right? My college experience was totally different as a Division I athlete than my best friends who were living in the dorm next to me, who were having a totally different experience. But because playing Division I soccer was something I wanted to do, I knew that it was going to require a certain level of focus and alignment on what that goal was. So it meant I was going to have to say no to things. So if anybody has any comments, questions, reflections, don't be shy. Brittany will read them for you.
Yes, the chat is open. And I think there's also a Q&A one, but I will know if anything pops in there too, and I can
Okay,
send
cool.
that one. So yeah. And I, like I mentioned before too, we will have the presentation. So as you mentioned, if anybody wanted to kind of follow a similar guideline, you know, for this wheel, that will be available. And I believe I have the slides as well. So we can always, if you didn't like, if you don't need the full video at the time and you want the picture of it, you know, we have that available too.
Oh, someone is messaging me saying the chat is disabled for them.
Oh, that is so strange. Let's see.
That's it. Everybody's been trying to chat in the chat and it's disabled.
If the chat is disabled for you currently, please send through the Q&A, but let me get a look at the webinar chat here.
So Karen, if you've got something to comment or a reflection, feel free to send it through the Q&A. Oh, I think she is in the Q&A, it looks like.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so send it through the Q&A if you have any reflections or comments. One of my very favorite stories is I love the story of Steve Jobs and how he wore the same thing every single day to work, right? So one of the most creative, magical, mystical thinking people in our current, you know, history wore the exact same thing every day: a black turtleneck, black pants, black socks, and some version of black shoes. If you just passed him on the street, you would think, oh man, that's the least creative person I've ever met. He's just dressed in black from head to toe. But when asked why he did that, he said it was because he didn't want to spend his time and attention in the morning on figuring out what to wear. He didn't want to be distracted by having to pick out an outfit. He didn't want people to be distracted by what he was wearing, right? And so here's this amazingly creative person who's made a decision to simplify their life. And so this tool can be as powerful as that you decide, hey, I'm going to simplify my life and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to eat the same breakfast every day, or I'm going to wear the same thing to work every day. Like, you can use this tool in both really big, broad ways, but then in really simple, straightforward ways as well.
Yes, and Hailee, we did get the chat is open. I think
Okay,
it was
cool.
a setting that for some reason was turned off initially.
Yay.
But I guess so I wanted to let you know in case you wanted to remind anybody if they had anything to send through the chat.
Yeah, and I have something, someone commented to me directly and said, so much reflection on the need to put love as one of my 4, and then sitting and being real that love doesn't have to be one of your 4 for you to be a loving person. I love that reflection. But if you are real with yourself, love will be an expression through something that might actually be more important to you. So being real, my four are knowledge, wholeness, inspiration, and creativity. I love that. Pun intended. I think that's an amazing reflection. And here's the other thing about your core values. They could change over time. In fact, this wheel, as I look at it, there are some things on there that have kind of shifted for me a little bit over the last 5 years since I created this wheel. Pretty much the same, but some things have kind of, there's been a refinement in some of those things. And so you can change your core values. So for those folks who are like, but I have more than 4 core values, you can, those things can change over time. In fact, I would expect for them to change, right? As you get into a different phase of your life. If you're a single unmarried person who has no children, your core values might be different than if you're a spouse and a parent. So those values can change over time. And I think that they should change over time. Let's see. And then someone asked, do you have a list or a way of figuring out what your values are? What is the definition of value? So I'm going to actually read you the definition. Core values are broad concepts that can be applied over and over again across a range of circumstances, as opposed to narrow answers to a specific question. Your core values are what you consider most important in your life. Literally what you value. Whether you are conscious of them or not, you have values for every part of your life. Parenting values, investing values, work values, health values. So some other examples: compassion, authenticity, creativity, justice, impact. You can actually go on, you can actually search the internet and search core values or values. That's a great way to sort of generate a list for yourself. Start with a bigger list. And then as you really think through. So I was listening to a podcast the other day, We Can Do Hard Things. And Jane Fonda was on the podcast. And I am a huge Jane Fonda fan, and I'm sort of obsessed with her. And she does this thing. She uses this tool, this reflection that I actually use too. And she imagines the end of her life. And she thinks about who she wants present in the room as she's transitioning from her life. And she thinks about what she leaves behind, right? And so I actually think about that a lot, as I've had friends and family members who've left. Inevitably, there's never been a thing, right? A gift that they've given me, or a tangible item that was the most significant impact that they had on my life. So when I think about the folks who've made the most impact in my life, the sustaining feeling that I have when they leave is time, the time that they spent with me. So when I think about a grandparent, I can't remember a specific present that they gave me, but I can remember the time that we went on a hike, or the attention that they gave me when they were teaching me to ski. So investing that time, and with that in mind, that's actually something that I'm really focused on with. I've got 6 nieces and nephews, so spending time with them instead of buying them gifts, I try to spend as much time as I possibly can. So it's very often that I'll call one of my brother and sister and say, I'm going to pick so-and-so up from school, and I'm there in the pickup line, and we're going to spend some time together, or I'm going to walk them home from school. And sometimes it's as simple as a 15-minute walk home from school, but I get them fresh out of school. I pour as much of my time and attention as I can into them. You know, I stick them in their house with their with their parents. And I kind of go on about my day sometimes, but I know that investment, that 15-minute investment, was so important, not only to them, but to me, right? That we would have that connection time. So that's, again, a way in which you can really start to use this tool to figure out how to prioritize what's most important in your life. Another reflection was, I also love how you can use this chart as a litmus test for decision making. 100%. I do use this as a litmus test for decision making. Sometimes you're at a crossroads or you have a hard decision to make. Maybe it's continuing a relationship, maybe it's taking a new job. Using this tool can help even more so than kind of a side-by-side pros and cons list, the traditional pros and cons list, because it's going to really infuse your decision with the things that you value the most. And I share this wheel with folks that I care about, people that I love, people that are in my life. And it's funny how they'll say, oh, I thought of you based off of what I know your core values are. So now people are coming to me, bringing me opportunities or, you know, or whatever based off of what they know my values are. And so that's super helpful for me too, right? So I'll give you one final example because it looks like we're getting kind of close on time. I'll give you one final example. So I love my family. They're very, very important to me. I grew up in Kansas City. I moved away for college. I swore that I would never move home. At 30, I did to start City Gym. And my entire family lives within a mile radius of me. I was the person who thought I lived in California for a long time. I was the person who thought I'll live in California for the rest of my life. But my family became such an important priority in my life that being close to them has been really important for me. But there is this one thing that they do that makes me feel resentful. So we see each other all the time. They work out in my gym. I pick their kids up from school. I run and walk by my parents' house all the time. So literally I might bump into someone I'm related to in the grocery store, for example. That's not uncommon. And yet we do this family dinner once a week. And so it started as kind of like a fun, loving way to connect with one another. But as people's lives have grown and kids have happened and spouses have happened and schedules have gotten more hectic, it doesn't feel like this time when we can connect and be loving, and it feels stressful. So it kind of starts with, it would always start with my mom sending out a message on the group thread. It was like, who's coming to family dinner? And I would always sigh, oh. Not that I didn't want to see them, not that I didn't love them, but that it felt like a kind of commitment that I didn't want. And for me, I try to have time in the evening where I'm connecting with my spouse. And so it always felt like pressure to me. And so I using my wheel of alignment, I started to build up my courage a little bit. And I'll never forget the first time I said, I won't be there. I love you all, but I'm not coming to family dinner. And my sister immediately side texted me and she's like, what's wrong? Why aren't you coming? And I was like, because I don't want to come. I just simply, it doesn't feel like the best use of my time. I would rather connect with you all in different ways. And she was like, what do you mean you don't want to come? And I said, I just simply don't want to come. It doesn't feel like the best way I want to use my time. And so she was kind of quiet. And then a couple of hours later, she was like, to be honest, I didn't even know that it was allowed for us to say no, right? And so by me saying no and kind of having my boundaries and being firm about that, it gave my sister an opportunity to think about it differently. So then the next couple of times would go by and then my sister might say, hey, we've got such and such gymnastics or soccer or whatever, we're not coming. And there was always like kind of a pause. And then my brother started having a similar kind of boundary setting. And then my mom started having the same boundary setting. So my parents would say, love you all. We're not going to do family dinner this week. No stress, no pressure. We'll see you all when we see you. And so by honoring my own boundary, I not only gave myself permission to say no, but I set a loving example for all these other people who, while the intention was good, the way we were actually carrying it out wasn't having the intended impact, right? So this tool gives you such a great opportunity to even find those sort of places where the intention might be good, but what is the actual impact? And it gives you an opportunity to reflect on those things and refine those things over time. Another person commented to me directly, also noticing no hierarchy structure. So it's able to undulate and have texture. That's right, undulate, sorry, little bitty tiny print. You can also say something has 3 out of the 4, and that might be enough. Exactly. I like that it can have a center, but without everything all the way on the edge. It's philosophically inclusive. Wow. I'm going to copy what you just said before I meet Oprah, and I'm going to make sure that I reflect that to them. But no, thank you. I agree. This idea of that no one thing takes priority, again, that would be this idea of balance, right? Or a hierarchy of needs. Instead, it's an alignment tool. And so it allows those things to be more fluid. And I have found that to be super powerful as well. Are you getting anything on your end, Brittany? Are we?
Well, let's see. I don't think so. I didn't. I think, yeah, I think they were mostly going directly to you, other than
cool.
finally getting the chat open. But yes, I don't see anything currently.
Well, I know we're getting close to time. I want to leave a little bit of space if folks have questions. It's a pretty short presentation, but it's a lot of things to think through. If you have questions or comments, I posted my Instagram handle on there. I run my account. You're welcome to shoot me a message as you have reflections and engage me in that way. Just as a shameless plug, social media is unfortunately king these days. So if you could follow the Fit Truk account, that would be amazing. I'd also encourage you to learn more about Fit Truk. Like I said, it's a fully equipped mobile outdoor smart gym, first in the world. And we're very excited about the opportunity that it's giving both businesses and frontline service folks an opportunity to potentially expand their business or their brand, a recruitment retention tool. So, and of course you can email me directly as well. So I really appreciate being invited to do this today. This was so fun. My favorite thing to do is to connect with people and hopefully share something that sparks some interest. And if you're an NFL football fan, I intentionally chose this background because our football team is in the Super Bowl this weekend. I didn't want to mention that up front in case we had any Eagles fans who would turn me off as soon as I said that. But we love the Eagles in Kansas City as well, almost as much as we like the Chiefs. But it's been great connecting with you all. And if nobody has anything, I'll turn it back over to Brittany and say once again, I appreciate you all and good luck with your Wheel of Alignment.
Yes, thanks, Hailee. Yeah, don't see anything in the chat currently. If anybody pops in, I'll be sure to read out. But I did want to add, you were talking about the Fit Truk, and I know, as you mentioned, we're going to have the Fit Truk at the Community Rec Leadership Summit at the beginning of March. And if anybody did want a glimpse of what that looks like or how it works, we will be taking some photos and videos, I know, while we're there. So we will be able to share that. So if you are curious and you want some firsthand accounts, you will get them from us. So anywhere that you see Community Rec Magazine, we'll be sharing that as well. So just wanted to add, I am excited about that. But thank you again,
Thanks,
Hailee.
Brittany.
Yes,
appreciate you all.
It was such a great presentation. Again, we'll make sure that this is available on demand to anybody that was here today and anybody who might have registered that wasn't able to make it. And it will be on our website at communityrecmag.com. So thank you all for your time. Thank you, Hailee, and I'm sure we will talk to you soon.
Thank you again. Appreciate you all.
All right. Bye. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.